Today we're diving into the question that all quilters have.
How would you quilt this?
Today on How Would You Quilt This, we're diving deep into how would you quilt a couple diamond quilts. Angelique, we're both different quilters, right?
Definitely different quilters.
Tell me a little bit about your quilting background so that they know us before we dive deeper into how do we quilt these quilts.
Absolutely. So I actually started on the original Cutie.
Nice.
And I had a 12-inch domestic machine, which meant I had less than 10 inches of quilt space. So, I mean, I did a few like pantographs, but I didn't actually have like the pantographs. I just would draw them out and try to stitch over the lines until I got comfortable with that, and then basically kind of treated it like a meander. But I didn't start with meanders because I was like, I don't like how that looks by itself, which is funny because now I love a meander. And I just found that I did a lot of like block work or like tighter quilting, and I think that I still do that. I have a tendency to still do that because I do still work on a hoop frame.
Nice. I started long arming on my aunt's machine, and she had a 26-inch throat.
Wow.
Which was amazing. And she didn't have automation, and so I did a lot of Freemotion and mainly used back handles and a laser to guide on a pantograph, and that's really how I learned how to quilt. So when I look at a quilt, my first thought is an all-over pantograph of some kind. But since then, I've gotten into ruler work and Freemotion quilting and automation and all of the things. So that's kind of my background. And so I feel like it'll be interesting to see what we both do for these.
Yeah, I was definitely self-taught. I didn't have anybody that really quilted. I had people who pieced and sewed, but nobody was a quilter. And it sounds like you at least had maybe a little bit of teaching.
I had two aunts that are long arm quilters and have long arms, and then since I've learned, several of my cousins and a couple aunts have gotten long arms. So.
All right. Well,
yeah, it's fun. Are we ready to dive into this first quilt?
I want to see what you did because I know we're going to be so different.
So this first quilt is actually right here. It's this guy. We can pop up a picture of it, but I made this one for a episode of Quilts in a Day.
It's so pretty.
And it's so cute. And so let's dive into first, how would you either Freemotion this, ruler work this, and everything other than automation?
Okay. So you want
to go first? Yeah,
okay.
You go first.
So again, I tend to kind of look at things in smaller zones. So I decided to kind of do a mix of ruler work and Freemotion, kind of focusing in the shapes of the diamonds so you can kind of see there, and color. This quilt was so colorful that I had trouble going, okay, this is the one color I would use. So I treated everything kind of like in those rows and found colors that really stood out to me that I wanted to accentuate but still keep that gradient going. So you can see I did some ruler work and kind of like every other, and then I did more like loops to kind of create like a fan. They look like fans to me, and so that's kind of what I was going for.
Nice. What threads would you use? Because I see that you used lots of different colors.
I used so many threads.
Show us some of your threads.
So for the very, very first one at the top, I used mixed berry, which is funny because when I actually did the designs, I started at the bottom. But then that kind of helps me in how I'm going to, when I go to quilted, starting at the top. But I started with mixed berry because that's what really kind of stood out to me. And then for the second row, I went on to magenta.
Okay.
Because that was kind of that next one. And then I didn't want to go too bright in the orange, so I went with dreamsicle, which always makes me hungry. And then I pulled out eucalyptus, which kind of straddled because of the colors that you used in the quilt between kind of 4 and 3 a little bit in those colors. And then the ones that were more yellow, which I called row 5, we went into marigold.
Nice, I like it.
And then into Baja blue for that next row.
And I love Baja because it could lean like more green or more blue depending on what color of fabric you put it on.
And when I looked at the greens, I thought it was maybe a little too green, so that's why I kind of settled with that one. And then I got into some of the more blue areas, and so that's when I pulled out the blue sapphire.
It's such a beautiful blue.
It is. It almost matches my sweater. It's definitely a color I'm drawn to. It's just happy and bright for a blue, even though it's in the cool tones. This one went a little bit on the lighter side, but I know how beautiful this quilt's in the pink. So this is our pink rose.
Pink rose is one of my go-tos.
Yeah, but this was a very light row, generally speaking, is kind of looking at that. And then finally, the water water lily because I didn't want to go too dark with the purple since I went with that pink rose. So that was kind of my thoughts there.
Beautiful. I find that a lot of quilters have questions about thread because it's so hard to pick thread. Do you want something that blends in? Do you want something that contrasts? Do you want one thread for all over? And how do you pick a thread that will work a little bit with everything? And I love how you chose a different thread for each color because I think that's what I was going for in this quilt was the gradients. And so it just adds to the gradients to have a gradients of thread as well.
Let's look at yours.
Okay.
I want to see what you did.
This is what I did.
Wow.
And I wanted to play around again, it's kind of like you did with the shapes of the diamonds, except I like to break up things with ruler work and with Freemotion. And with the Freemotion side, I just decided to repeat the same pattern over and over. So we have some ribbons, and then you do like an echo on those ribbons to really make them pop, and then really funky feathers. I want it to feel more like a doodle than a perfect quilt, because then we have the straight lines of the diamonds that balance out the doodle of the what are these again?
Diamonds?
No, not the diamonds, the shape. It's a loop. No, it's a
ribbon candy.
Ribbon candy. Oh my
Did
gosh.
you see I had to do this to get the word?
When it comes to doing the Freemotion, I just do whatever I feel, and I don't know the official name for it. And I've been quilting a while, and I kind of know the names for a lot of things, but I just do whatever.
And it's interesting because I did play with feathers initially, but because your diamonds are made of triangles, of those isosceles triangles, I had a tendency to want to start in the middle of one of those, and I didn't like how they were coming out. And that's when like the fan thing took over for me, but I love it.
And I love how on yours, you drew out in the color thread that you used. I just wanted to be able to see my design, but when it comes to thread, I like the choices that you picked for the gradients. I think for the pink, like at the top, I like Princess Pink. That's one of my go-to pinks.
That is a pretty one.
Because it's so good. I think for the oranges and the yellows, I would go with an amber style.
Is a great color,
Amber's really good. And then I think for the greens, I like bright. And this is all bright, so I think I could use bright thread and it'd be fine. And then for the greens, doing this leafy green. For the blues, doing this glacier, because it's just so cute. For the purples, I would go with that purple. What is that one again?
The water lily?
The water lily, just because it's so cute. You didn't steal it from me. This one was yours to begin with. But that's kind of what I would go with. And now, because I actually have the quilt here, I'm excited. I get to mess around with it and see if it works out.
And definitely, these are the colors that I picked. I would still use for my edge-to-edge work and all of that. I would just have to kind of stop and change as I go. So I really settled on these colors no matter how I chose to quilt it. So.
If you are watching and you want to join in this little challenge with us, you can screenshot the pictures that we have of our quilts and try to doodle them out yourself. If you want to, you can post them online and tag us, and we can see how you would Freemotion them, because everyone Freemotions so differently, and I feel like I get so many ideas just looking at everyone's
100%.
things.
That's how, I mean, you just sit there and scroll and like, oh, that's cute, that's cute, that's cute. And also do me a favor, remember to like and subscribe and click that bell so you get notifications.
Yes, come see us every week. We are posting twice a week, and we have tons of free patterns, free resources, and we just have a good time here.
Are we ready to look at?
Let's look at
or
the
automation.
next quilt. Oh wait, automation.
We still have automation to talk about.
Automation, let's go.
All right, so for automation, I'm sticking with my colors, but I decided to go with the breezy fan. It's kind of hard to line something like this up without having the quilt, so I'm kind of torn whether or not I would do this as a true edge to edge, or if I would do it as a block design to try to get within those areas. I think either way it might look really cute, but I would definitely want to play with it a little bit more to see how it would work out best.
I like it. I had a bunch of different random ones, but I really loved Flower Paisley Spiral. I thought it was so cute and so fun. Also, all of the automation designs that we are talking about today, you can find at the design store at graceframe.com. I also love Oops a Double Daisy. I think this one's so cute and so fun and funky.
That would be fun.
And then for thread, I would just use this pink for all of it, because I love a pink. And then I also loved the dandelion spray.
Oh, that's cute
and
too.
I thought that one
kind
was
of
fun.
fan looking.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think for an edge to edge for this one, because it's so geometric in the shape, doing something a little more organic. And the flowers are just so fun and girly, which I feel like this quilt screams fun and girly.
So I also looked at some custom or block designs, and I decided to start with Triangle 1.
Nice.
Now with this one, I would use QCT6 QCT6 gold because I want to use the multi-pattern placement so that I could set them up exactly how I wanted them and connect them. And then the other one, so I could alternate the blocks that I was doing, or at least the rows, I chose triangle KG7. Now this one I would lead at least QCT6 Pro because I would put it in Pattern CAD, and then in Pattern CAD I could connect it a little bit better because they didn't line up exactly as I want them to get those points, and you can see I turned those.
Nice, that's awesome. I'm not a block person, so I didn't plan any blocks. I like an edge to edge, but I like those blocks. I think they're fun.
All right.
Okay, should we move on to the next quilt? Okay, this quilt was made by Natasha Crofts, and it is beautiful, and it's got the similar diamonds to the one in my quilt, but they're just placed a little bit differently, and these ones look like they're made using half square triangles. I love the colors. I'll go first because you went first last time.
Absolutely.
So for this one, again, I love when doing free motion playing with geometric versus organic, and so I decided in all of the colored diamonds to do just straight lines going out from the center, and then in all of the black diamonds, I was looking actually on the design store and saw this block design, and I thought that is so cute, but I would rather do it free motion just because then it would look more organic. And I didn't care about it looking as perfect. And so do that in all the black spaces. And then when it comes to color, I think I would go for something that blends in a little bit more. So smoky quartz, or if I wanted for things to stand out, either do a princess pink or a glacier.
Nice.
What would you do?
So I saw the quilt differently, and I like how you saw it, the black and the colors, but I was really drawn to the center of this one, and so it looked kind of like a big flower to me. So I kind of planned my free motion design that way. I started with the center, and I did one kind of I don't even know what you'd call this, but kind of petally looking thing, a little bit of ruler work. Stitch in the ditch kind of stuff there, and then just kind of alternated because I noticed like some of because they look like parallelograms to me, but they would come together and you'd get like a wider V or a smaller V, and I kind of alternated those shapes a little bit to create more of, look in the center and work your way out kind of a design. For this one, colors were a little tougher for me because without having it here to look at, I decided that because we did have a lot of colors, that probably one of my variegated ones.
I love that.
I think this one is the one I like the most so far, which is the Moonstone. But again, one of these two, either Mountain Mist or Canyon Shale, but definitely once I have it in front of me, would select which one of those I would use the most. I didn't do the color in here because I hadn't decided at that time.
I love the flower style of it and your use of feathers in some of the spots. I think it's fun to incorporate all of those different free motion designs. Okay, for automation, I thought doing spool lower practice, I don't know why, but I'm obsessed with this pantograph. It is one of my favorites. I love how it nests so beautifully. I think this one would be really fun to do, as well as retro rainbow, just something all over. And something about this one in particular is it's so busy. By busy, like there's just so many lines in it that whenever you do put something like this on top of a quilt, because there's so many different lines, the quilting actually ends up melting into the background where you can see the quilt a little bit better rather than using bigger pantographs. So retro rainbow is cute, but with all of this space in between the rainbows, it makes it so that that spot pops out a little bit more, and so you're focused more on the quilting instead of the whole quilt itself. And then also Heart Baptist fan. I thought that one would be cute, especially if this was for like a granddaughter or a little girl or a teenager or something. But those were my go-tos. What were yours?
I decided that a quilt like this, I would not do any kind of edge to edge.
Okay.
So instead, I again focused on that center because I could not stop seeing the center. And so for the center, I would rotate the petal 4 block to kind of create that first part of the design, and then tulip 1, which is the one that's kind of over to the left a little bit. That one for those skinnier ones. Remember I said I saw some is skinnier and some is wider, and then tulip 4 for the wider ones.
I like it. That would be fun.
Not sure about this placement. I might have like reversed it once I had it on the quilt, but just kind of generally looking at it, that was my thoughts.
That's cute.
If you would like us to take a stab on how to do one of your quilts and how would you quilt this, please send us an email, which you'll see right here, and we would love to feature it on a future episode. And of course, remember to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can see the next one.
And we'll see you next time on how would you quilt this?
How would you quilt this?
See ya.
Bye.